What's going on, guys? Welcome back into the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing something branching off of my last video about how I correct EA's bad rosters within Madden, and we're going to be talking about what the largest issue is with rosters within Madden, and it's an issue that I kind of brushed upon within that last video, but I wanted to mainly save it for a separate video because it's an entire topic in and of itself, and it is something that you definitely need to be aware of if you're going to be correcting rosters on your own, if you're going to be editing rosters for franchise play, for realism, and anything under that category, because it is by far the biggest and most pervasive issue with rosters within Madden, within EA, and the dev team. And so it's something that we need to make a dedicated video on so that we can talk about it, break it down, and break down how to correct it. So I'm going to pose the question, what is the main problem, the most pervasive problem with Madden's rosters, especially here in Madden 22, but it's been the same problem for years? And the answer to that is EA's inability to include future development and projections into their roster creation. Now, what do I mean about that? Well, the reason that we see so many high overall players, and we see players that have ratings that are too high based on their career performance, and ratings that are skewed too high based on their career performance, is because the game is not geared toward franchise players any longer. And therefore, the roster is also not built or geared towards franchise. If we were to consider the future development and future impact and future years of players within our roster creation process, we would be considering how a franchise is supposed to work and how rosters should look, including franchise mode. Likewise, the issues that I noted in the previous video, and if you haven't seen that video, go down below into the description and click on it and check it out before you continue through this video. The lack of inclusion of career performance for players within the game into our ratings calculations and things like that is a very clear example of why they are gearing the game towards current performance. They're gearing the game towards Ultimate Team and head-to-head and arcade type modes. They're not gearing the roster and the game towards franchise mode, and they haven't been for years, unfortunately, and that is the major failing of the roster and why their ratings are so bad, and why you see all of these other issues that I noted in the previous video. It stems from one main issue, and that is that the roster is current based. It's based on the current year, and it is not designed for franchise mode. It is only designed for current head-to-head gameplay, and likewise, this issue then extends beyond player ratings, but it also extends into development. But before we get into that end of things, let's talk about the player rating end of things. So in the last video, we mentioned, and pretty much everybody unanimously agreed, that Aaron Donald throughout his career and currently is the better player in comparison to Myles Garrett. And we could use multiple other examples within the game. We could use the Patrick Mahomes example versus Russell Wilson. We could use multiple other positions like Jalen Ramsey at cornerback and things of that nature. However, we're going to use Myles Garrett and Aaron Donald for you guys today so that we can give a very quick illustration of what I'm talking about. If we were to factor in career performance and future development of players, then the devs creating this roster would have to know that Myles Garrett as a 99 overall is going to be a massive impact to that team for multiple years to come. However, they also have to understand that it is possible for Myles Garrett as a 90 overall player to reach 99 overall as a 25-year-old X Factor in a relatively realistic amount of time, and that would be a much more realistic way to rate that player. I also do want to take a look at the quarterback position, for example, and take a look at Patrick Mahomes, for example, and talk about Patrick Mahomes for a second, because he's a 97 X factor, and he's a pretty good representation of this topic as well. The devs have to understand that within franchise mode, Patrick Mahomes is going to be a 99 overall by week 8 of a franchise. If you started in week 1 and got to week 8, Patrick Mahomes is more than likely going to be a 99 overall. And so they have clearly not taken into account for a Patrick Mahomes, for example, or for a Myles Garrett, for example, the player's ability to develop as they continue in their career, and they have not taken into account the player's need to develop within franchise mode and the inevitable development of certain players that are overrated within franchise mode, such as Patrick Mahomes. Because, for example, what is the point of rating Patrick Mahomes as a 97 overall if within 8 weeks in a franchise he's going to be a 99 overall anyway? You might as well just give him a 99 overall rating. Instead, what we should be doing whenever we're taking a look at rosters and creating rosters is realistically projecting out what this player's overall is going to be within a half a season, 2 seasons within the game. So we discussed in the last video that Patrick Mahomes, for example, isn't the greatest quarterback of all time. He is very much on his way to eventually becoming that, but he will eventually become that. He is not that yet. And therefore, we have to discuss the fact that we have to factor that into his rating within the game. We talked about the fact that the best player of all time should be considered a 99 overall. 95 plus should be only considered for Hall of Fame caliber players, players that have already proven that they are Hall of Fame caliber players and are going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Patrick Mahomes is not that yet. If his career ended today, he would not be a Hall of Fame player. Therefore, whenever we adjust the rosters, we have to consider that future development of those players. So when should Patrick Mahomes realistically achieve a rating? I would say it's somewhere in that 2 to 3 year range, maybe a little bit sooner, but more likely in that 2 to 3 year range. And so we have to look at his overall now and his development now in order to see where he should start in terms of an overall. And so I would give him a rating more closer to the lower 90s, because we know that after a season he'll gain 4 or 5 ratings. After 2 seasons he'll gain another 4 or 5 ratings, and that'll put him up there very close to that 99 overall mark, and therefore we have achieved a much more realistic rating for the player. I don't think a 91 or a 92 rating for Patrick Mahomes would honestly be an under rating for him, because we know that within franchise mode, within a season or two, he will become a 97, 98, 99 overall player, that he truly deserves that rating once he has had 2 or 3 more successful years within the league. And that just simply brings me back around to Myles Garrett, for example, who we're talking about as in the same category as Aaron Donald. We can talk about the very same argument. For him to reach Aaron Donald's status as the most unstoppable pass rusher and run stuffer within the game, he has a couple of years to go. Yeah, he's been very good for 4 years, and he is one of the most unstoppable players within the game, but Aaron Donald's been doing it for 7 years. He deserves that 99 rating. He's potentially the best player to have ever done it. Myles Garrett is not yet. He has not done that yet. So, in franchise mode, in order for him to get up to a 99 overall, again, you're looking at potentially 2 to 3 years, and that would align with Aaron Donald being a 99 overall in the 7th year of his career. So 2 to 3 years would put Myles Garrett in the 6th or 7th year of his career, where he would achieve a 99 overall. So we should then be giving Myles Garrett a rating around a 90, 91, 92, so that within 2 to 3 years, he realistically achieves that 99 overall grade. But that's great and all, but where I feel the biggest issue comes in, that is even bigger than the ratings aspect of things, is the issue that arises directly related to this from development. Because they are not focused on career performance, they're not focused on potential development, they're not focused on future development, they're not focused on anything of that. Instead, they're just focused on the here and now with these rosters. They're only giving players developments in order to give them traits that they feel they deserve right now. So only players that they feel deserve a trait right now that will separate them from the rest of the players in the game will get a superstar or an X Factor development, which is a crucial misstep in designing these rosters and appropriately rating these players within the game, because it completely takes out the factor of actual development for a lot of the players that should have higher ceilings in the game. For example, we talked about middle linebacker Tremaine Edmunds for the Buffalo Bills, who for some reason every single year is not given superstar development, even though his ceiling is that of one of potentially the best linebackers in the future of the NFL. Tremaine Edmunds has the potential to become one of the better linebackers, if not the best linebacker in the league. He has the athleticism and the tools and the size to do it, but he only has star development, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever if you really take into account development potential of players. And it really speaks to the fact that they are only giving traits to players that are playing at a level that earns a trait right here, right now within the NFL. And therefore, we are snubbing players of reaching their full potential in franchise mode. So instead of Tremaine Edmunds having superstar because he has that ceiling and he should grow at a faster rate than other linebackers and other players within the game, he is not given that because they don't feel he deserves to have a specific trait right here, right now. And that is why we have to fix the developments in the game, and that is one of the biggest issues, if not the biggest issue within the game, and they don't let us do that at the main menu, and we can't save a roster and then export that roster from franchise mode. So unfortunately, every single time you do a franchise mode, you have to do the most important overhaul of every single player's dev within the league to make it realistic to franchise mode, to consider development, to consider potential, to consider ceilings of players within the NFL. And that is the biggest disservice that EA and the ratings adjusters are doing for their fans of this game. So in summary, the biggest and most pervasive issue within Madden's rating system, roster system, is the issue of not considering player development within the game, and more so on a macro scale, just failing to consider franchise mode at all whenever we are developing ratings and coming up with a roster for the game. And that is something that you guys and I, as players of the game, as people that are adjusting the roster, have to take into account. And we have to understand that they are developing and creating a roster for the here and now, for play now players, for online head-to-head players, for MUT players, as opposed to creating a realistic roster that can be used in franchise mode. And that is the biggest issue, and something that I definitely wanted to make a separate video on so that we can have a discussion topic about it. So with all that being said, leave your comments down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know your other issues that you guys have with the roster creation process and everything of that nature, and if there are any other examples that you guys want to point to as a supporting argument for this. There are dozens that I could choose from, if not hundreds that I could choose from within the roster, and I just don't have time to go through every single one. Nonetheless, leave a like on the video if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I'll see you guys in the next one as always, and I hope you have a good one.